are you?
Oh, fine, thank you, sir. What was that?
I'm in the mood for love, simply because you're near me.
50 years later, I look back on us being fired, and I'm still pissed off. Sit down.
A tape was sent to CBS's censors, and within minutes, alarms were going off throughout the building. Instead of the usual light-hearted comedy, the screen displayed a bold and provocative political message, far beyond anything the network had previously allowed. "All right, you guys, I hired you as decorators. I want Billy the Kid to feel right at home. All right, first of all, I juggle one. Now two, ho ho ho. Next, who's next?" Just 6 days later, the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour was suddenly cancelled. There was no explanation, no press conference, and no final episode. Although the controversial tape never aired, its impact was immediate and widespread, sparking a powerful clash between creative artists and network censors. That moment marked a turning point for free speech on American television. What had happened behind the scenes? Who made the call to shut it down? And what exactly was on that tape that sent CBS into a frenzy? It was a moment in history that reshaped the rules of American broadcasting. In the 1960s, television in America was dominated by three networks: NBC, ABC, and CBS. Every evening, families gathered to watch tightly controlled programming that reflected the moral, political, and cultural values of the post-war era. Within that framework, CBS led the market with safe, family-friendly shows like The Ed Sullivan Show and Bonanza. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight, live from New York, The Ed Sullivan Show. As the anti-war movement grew and youth counterculture took hold, CBS found itself needing a new strategy to retain younger viewers. The idea for the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour wasn't born from a bold creative vision but from a desire to compete with NBC's strong Sunday night lineup, especially Bonanza. Tom and Dick Smothers, known for their "Da Smart Brother Dumb Brother" routine, had found success on smaller platforms and seemed like a safe bet. CBS believed they could modernize the variety show format without stirring controversy. Nothing funny in this. Hey boys, we're through censoring your show. When the show debuted on February 5, 1967, it followed a familiar variety format: musical acts, playful banter, and gentle comedy. But Tom Smothers had a different vision. He didn't want the show to serve as mere entertainment. Using humor as a vehicle, Tom gradually began weaving social and political themes into the content. At first, the lines seemed harmless, but they quickly grew sharper and more layered. While CBS chased ratings, Tom saw a chance to use television to confront real issues head-on. Dick Smothers didn't oppose the shift but remained cautious. He took on the role of moderator, tempering Tom's more provocative remarks. The evolution was subtle enough at first to avoid raising red flags at CBS, but noticeable enough for the audience to feel the difference. Folk singer and anti-war icon Pete Seeger was one of the first significant guests, followed by influential performers like Harry Belafonte, Joan Baez, Jefferson Airplane, and The Who. These musical appearances weren't just for show, they delivered powerful messages about war, injustice, and freedom, right in the heart of prime-time television. The show also brought on younger, politically engaged writers such as Steve Martin and Mason Williams. Slowly, the comedic sketches began transforming into sharp satire. Playful folk tunes were broken up by mock debates on topics like military action, religion, and civil rights. Though the format remained, music, dialogue, comedy, the tone and purpose had completely shifted. As a result, the show's popularity grew, especially among viewers aged 18 to 25, reflecting the younger generation's hunger for more honest, challenging television. College campuses began recognizing the show as a powerful voice of representation on television. Students picked up on lines from the show, turning them into popular trends. At the same time, parents and local stations in the South started sending letters of complaint about its content. Despite this divide, CBS continued airing the show because it was still pulling in higher than expected ratings. Behind the scenes, CBS executives felt they were losing control. Tom Smothers refused to alter any lines if he believed they were essential to the message. Episodes were often re-edited just before airing or sent out late. Nevertheless, the show aired weekly, presenting new challenges for CBS. The second season launched with high hopes from both the audience and the show's creators. The Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour had evolved beyond a standard comedy show. It became a rare television outlet for addressing topics most networks avoided. With a growing audience, especially among young people, CBS remained willing to take risks, as long as the show didn't push too far. But Tom Smothers' idea of what crossed the line kept shifting. Musical segments pushed the boundaries even further. Jefferson Airplane performed a song alluding to psychedelic experiences. The Who's performance of My Generation was so chaotic that it crashed the sound system. Joan Baez stirred controversy by singing a song for her husband, who was in prison for refusing military service, though CBS removed that context from the broadcast. The show's comedy segments also began challenging mainstream media. Comedian Pat Paulson, hired for the editorial portion, portrayed a satirical presidential candidate. His mock speeches poked fun at political norms, with lines like, "If elected I will build more potholes to test the patience of voters." Though comedic, the satire struck a nerve by reflecting real public frustration with politics. However, David Steinberg caused the greatest conflict with CBS. His satirical sermonettes, which debuted in late 1968, mimicked church sermons and mixed religious references with political commentary. In one October 1968 sketch, his biting tone led several CBS affiliates to reject the segment, and over 300 complaints poured in within a week. The public's response was divided. Students scribbled down Steinberg's lines in their notebooks. Bootleg video stores sold banned clips. College papers published analyses of the show. For many young Americans, it was the only television program that mirrored the world they were living in. As its popularity rose, so did CBS's discomfort. Censorship at the network intensified. CBS required that each episode be submitted 10 days in advance for approval. Tom Smothers deliberately missed deadlines, delaying post-production to preserve the original scripts. Tensions between the creative team and CBS executives escalated. The behind-the-scenes struggle became increasingly visible. CBS began scrutinizing every script and guest appearance more closely. Dick Smothers tried to maintain balance. Though he often disagreed with Tom's decisions, he kept his objections private. For Dick, keeping the show on air became a personal mission, while Tom focused on making sure the message got through, regardless of the cost. By early 1969, CBS's patience had worn thin. Executives were exploring other options. Southern affiliates threatened to drop the show, and advertisers expressed growing concern. When David Steinberg returned with a segment that was even more direct and politically charged, CBS decided the line had been crossed for good. Titled Forbidden Lecture, the episode marked a breaking point. In early April 1969, production of the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour continued in-house, but the end was clearly near. The episode featured a striking element the show's writers understood well. David Steinberg had returned with a new sermonette. Despite CBS's warnings that bringing Steinberg back after the previous year's controversy would seriously endanger the show, Tom Smothers made the decision to include him anyway. The segment was staged with a minimalist set resembling a church, with a spotlight shining on the pulpit. Steinberg emerged dressed as a rabbi. In just under 5 minutes, he led the audience from the biblical image of Moses to that of a modern anti-war protester. In Steinberg's version, Moses wasn't directed by God to lead the Israelites, but by his conscience, spurred on by young people unwilling to fight in an unjust war. One pivotal moment came when Moses looked Pharaoh in the eye and declared, "Sorry, Mr. President. Take your army and go. And I will not help you any longer." The studio audience responded with applause, but to CBS executives, the line felt like a direct challenge to the Nixon administration, something they had worked hard to avoid. The piece concluded with a brief musical performance. A folk trio styled after Peter, Paul, and Mary sang a song titled No More Promised Lands. The lyrics rejected hollow promises from the government and urged youth to abandon old paths and draw new ones. The performance ended with Steinberg tossing his shawl into the audience and shouting, "Peace not war, preach it." As usual, the tape was sent to CBS, but unlike previous episodes, this one was halted soon after. CBS claimed the show had missed its review deadline, violating its production agreement. Tom Smothers disputed this, insisting the tape had been delivered to Hollywood censors on time. The issue, he argued, came from CBS's New York office, where the review process had been unusually slow. During internal discussions, CBS leaders, including William Paley, demanded Steinberg's segment be cut entirely for the episode to air. Tom refused. On April 4, 1969, CBS officially cancelled the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour. There was no public announcement or warning to the audience. The next week, the time slot was filled by Hee Haw, a much safer rural comedy. While the controversial episode never aired in the US, a version was shown by CTV in Canada, beyond CBS's censorship. Bootleg copies of the banned content quickly spread among college campuses. Student publications and youth magazines published thoughtful takes on the episode. One called it a bitter but honorable goodbye from a show unafraid to speak out. Reactions were deeply split. Younger audiences saw the cancellation as CBS prioritizing political convenience over free speech. Protests emerged in various cities, especially near CBS offices. Meanwhile, conservative organizations praised CBS's decision, calling it necessary to uphold public decency. The cancellation wasn't driven by scandal or financial trouble, it was the result of a 5-minute anti-war skit featuring a provocative figure. That brief moment was enough to bring down a nationally popular show. For Tom and Dick Smothers, the show's abrupt end marked a serious setback in both their professional lives and public standing. They were kept off television for years. Nationally broadcast opportunities vanished almost overnight. Tom quickly gained a reputation as someone too controversial to hire, deemed too risky for any network. Although Dick was more reserved, he too became associated with the image of a polarizing show. Every opportunity they had once enjoyed in the television world was suddenly taken away. Behind closed doors, however, a legal dispute quietly unfolded. The Smothers Brothers filed a lawsuit against CBS for breach of contract, arguing that cancelling the show over delayed episodes was just a pretense. The case dragged on for nearly 4 years, and in 1973, the court ruled in their favor. CBS was ordered to pay over $770,000 for violating the co-production agreement. Still, the legal win did not restore their standing in the industry. During this difficult period, Tom and Dick's relationship was tested. In later interviews, Dick admitted he didn't completely support Tom's unyielding approach. He believed that with a few compromises, the show might have continued and made a bigger impact. Despite their differences, the two remained close and continued performing live. Though they were no longer on television, they kept a dedicated fan base through appearances in small theaters. The cancellation of their show had wide-reaching effects on the media landscape. Young producers, including Lorne Michaels, who would go on to create Saturday Night Live, saw it as a warning about the boundaries of creative freedom when facing network authority. Michaels once said that without the Smothers Brothers, SNL might never have existed. The show became a pioneering example of blending entertainment with political commentary. Its influence reached beyond television. Aspiring comedians and artists began to see it as a symbol of censorship. Banned segments were circulated as underground memorabilia, especially among students and indie creatives. Some of the sketches rejected by CBS later surfaced in the private archives of former writers, strengthening the narrative of creative suppression. Over time, public opinion about the brothers and their show evolved. In 2008, Tom Smothers was awarded an honorary Emmy, nearly 4 decades after the show's cancellation. In his acceptance speech, he said, "Peace is harder than war," a line that has since been widely quoted. In 2010, both brothers were inducted into the Television Academy Hall of Fame, finally receiving long overdue recognition. Beyond the entertainment world, their story became part of America's broader free speech legacy. In the early 1970s, Tom and Dick were listed among the Nixon administration's enemies. While they didn't face the same retaliation as some politicians, their inclusion was proof that their show had genuinely provoked the government, a rare feat for a TV program. In 2022, their complete archive, scripts, recordings, and never-aired material was transferred to UC Santa Barbara. It was the first time the public and researchers had access to documents that CBS had once ordered destroyed. The digitization of these materials is expected to reshape the show's legacy, especially for young people unfamiliar with the era of protest television. When Tom Smothers passed away in late 2023, social media lit up with clips from the show, vintage photos, and tributes from well-known comedians. Stephen Colbert, John Oliver, and Sarah Silverman all honored him as a trailblazer in political comedy. They remembered him not just as a historical figure, but as someone whose influence continues to shape comedy today. Rooted in a time when American television was becoming more daring and outspoken, the show is now making an unexpected return to popular memory, thanks to the internet. Once passed around on VHS tapes by college students, episodes are now digitized and spreading quickly across YouTube, Reddit, TikTok, and other video sharing platforms. The phrase "Mom always liked you best" has found new life as the backdrop to countless memes and parodies. A satirical clip from Patson's fictional 1968 campaign, where he jokingly vowed to solve every problem by simply waiting, has gone viral. In today's political landscape, material once deemed too controversial is now praised as sharp, insightful satire. This resurgence isn't just about nostalgia, it's a delayed acknowledgement of a show far ahead of its time. Archives at UC Santa Barbara are being explored by researchers, students, and filmmakers, revealing unaired footage, handwritten notes by Tom Smothers, cut sketches, and CBS's reaction letters. Together, these pieces shed light on the intensity of censorship the show faced. Through curated exhibits, viewers not only see the polished episodes but also the behind-the-scenes battles that shaped each moment on screen. Modern comedians like John Oliver, Trevor Noah, and Hassan Minhaj have all credited the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour with influencing their work, not because of its format, but for proving that comedy can confront reality and spark important conversations. At media conferences, the show is often cited as a key force in the development of modern critical television. Though it no longer airs, its legacy endures in its quotes, imagery, and unshakable spirit. When The Forbidden Sermon was re-aired at the New York Television Festival, a younger generation experienced an episode that had been banned in 1969. Instead of feeling outdated, its message came across as bold and surprisingly current. The Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour never called itself iconic, it earned that title through the reactions it provoked from audiences, networks, political figures, and the culture at large. A show silenced for challenging the status quo now stands as a prime example of television's power to be courageous, defiant, and unapologetically honest. If you believe the story of the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour still matters today, let us know in the comments. What would it mean if a show like this aired now? Don't forget to like and share this video with anyone passionate about TV history, freedom of expression, and the lasting impact of comedy that dares to speak out.